And where are we going?
Welcome. This is Red Eyes Radio.
Regular listeners and newcomers to the program. This is Red Eyes Creations Radio. My name is Henrik Palmgren and we are recording from the west coast of Sweden. You can hear us every Thursday and Sunday through our website redicecreations.com. Don't forget to follow along in our news section, and for you guys who want to have full access to Red Eyes Creations Radio, do check out our subscribers section. All information is available on redicecreations.com. And today we have a very special program for you. We have the pleasure of welcoming Mr. G. Edward Griffin to the program. G. Edward Griffin is a writer and documentary filmmaker. He is the author of The Creature from Jekyll Island, World Without Cancer, The Fearful Masters, and a few of his excellent films include The Capitalist Conspiracy, an inside view of the international banking, The Discovery of Noah's Ark, Seduction of a Generation, and The Subversion Factor, A History of Treason in Modern America. His website that you should check out right away is realityzone.com, where you can find much more information and on must-have or must-see documentary videos, DVDs, of course books and audio CDs. And as far as I know, all of the books and videos that Mr. Griffin is behind are available on realityzone.com. And today we are going to spend some time talking about his book The Creature from Jekyll Island and his film The Capitalist Conspiracy. Very important information that is vital to help you understand what's going on in the world. So I'm very excited to have Mr. Griffin here and to dive into the subjects of today's program. So let's say welcome to Mr. Griffin. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you on the program. Thank you for taking the time to be here.
Well, thank you, Henrik. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Thank you so much again for coming on. I also want to extend my thanks to our good friend Michael Tessarion for helping us making this program today a reality. And, Mr. Griffin, before we kind of dive into the main topic of today's program, I just want to ask you something here. You guys celebrated, of course, 4th of July yesterday, the Independence Day. And with the background that you have and the subjects that you have studied and researched, and considering the concern for national sovereignty and so forth, a day like 4th of July, what thoughts does it bring? Do you feel hope for the future or gloom over how things have turned out, maybe not only in the U.S. but around the world?
Well, Henrik, that's a very profound question, and it's interesting in that last evening Mrs. Griffin and I drove over to the center of our little village here, and they have a nice fireworks display. And as we were sitting there watching these magnificent fireworks up in the sky, and all the people, and especially the children going, ooh, ah, and then boom, boom, and I was thinking to myself, I wonder how many people here really are giving any thought to what that means and what this is all about, or is it just a light show and a sound show? And I came sadly to the conclusion that most of the people there had no reflection or not even much knowledge on the real purpose of the 4th of July celebration. And I haven't even thought about what national independence means today, and certainly not what it meant at the time in 1776 when this whole thing started for us.
Yeah.
Today, we don't have national independence. It's been eroded. It's been chipped away, and not eroded, I suppose. Eroded is the wrong word because that implies some kind of a natural process that goes on with the passage of time. No, that's not what happened to our our national sovereignty, it's been chipped away. It's been attacked, and pieces of it have been deliberately stolen. And the pieces, each one, have been so small that nobody really noticed it.
Yeah.
But now we come to this present year, and we see that what is standing out there is kind of like a light and a sound show. Our national sovereignty is all a show, and there's no substance to it anymore. And so, yes, I'm very sad when I think about all that, and I'm especially sad when I think that the average American doesn't really think about it, or if you were to ask him, he'd probably shrug his shoulders and say, well, so what? And that's very sad.
Yeah. So where do you think we are heading? I mean,
well, I think we're at the very late stage in the creation of what many people at the top fondly call the New World Order, which is, translated, that simply means world government based on the model of collectivism. And this has been a long-term goal of certain groups of people, not only in the United States, but all around the world. They all have a connection, and their goal is to destroy national sovereignty, not just for the United States, but for all countries, and to merge them into this this global government. And you might say, well, what's wrong with that? And the obvious answer is there's nothing wrong per se with world government, but it's a half a question. It's a half an answer. The question should say, but what kind of a world government are we talking about?
Yeah.
If we were talking about a world government based on the principles of individual rights and personal freedom and respect for, personal faith and political views and lifestyle and all of those things, there would be nothing wrong with it. It'd probably be a wonderful thing and a natural evolution of political systems. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about a system at the United Nations which is based on the model of collectivism. Now, collectivism is a word here in the United States that not too many people are familiar with. They think that means, well, collective action. We all get together and agree to cooperate. Well, no. Collectivism is, especially when it's used by the people at the top who are promoting it, they know exactly what it means. It means a system, a political system, in which the group is more important than the individual, and that the individual is sacrificed willingly, if necessary, for the greater good of the greater number. And all of that sounds pretty good, but it translates down into total tyranny, because who determines the greater good of the greater number are always the elitists, the political and financial elitists who are in control of the political parties, in control of the media centers. They pretty much control the public opinion, and they lead the masses through this illusion of democracy, and the people vote their dictators into office, and then they're supposed to be satisfied because, well, after all, they voted them in. And not realizing that they really didn't vote them in, because they had to choose between 2 or 3 candidates, all of whom were selected by a very small group at the top.
That's right.
And so forth. I'm rambling a little bit.
Oh, no.
The point is that we need to ask what kind of a global government, and very few people are doing that. So what's happening is that we're on the very late stages, in my opinion, of the creation of this new world order, and it's not going to be a pretty thing. In fact, it's already not a pretty thing. And but as long as people in our country and in yours, we still have a modicum of a little bit of security, and we still can eat well, and we still can get in our cars and go someplace without having to show our papers at every corner or every 20 miles or so. And as long as we got our color television and a nice cold beer in the refrigerator, everybody says, well, what's wrong with life? This is a good life. They don't realize that this is pretty much the situation, minus the color television, but it was pretty much the situation in pre-Nazi Germany as they slid toward Nazism. So anyway, those are the thoughts that came to my mind on the 4th of July.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one thing interesting to ponder upon, of course, is what is the kind of the worst case scenario here? I mean, we could end up in a, as you say, very much more controlled society. But in a way, I've been kind of pondering upon this, and it seems like the way things are now, just as you described, with as long as people have their TV and their cold beer or whatever, people will, in a sense, be satisfied by it. So the question is, do you think that kind of system always will be in place, where we have some kind of prosperity, so to speak, but not in a spiritual sense, but on a more superficial and materialistic sense? What do you think?
Well, I think that's what the people at the top are planning on. I think they're very smart. They have experts at their fingertips, experts in the field of public psychology, mass movements, and they know a lot about how to control the population, how to control their thinking. The system today is built on mind control rather than body control, although that fallback to sheer force of arms is always there. They're never going to give up their military and their police forces and their jails, and unfortunately their torture chambers and all of that sort of thing. But they found out over the past 50 or 60 years or so that it's much more efficient and much more dependable to control people by controlling their minds, to convince them that their captivity is good for them. If you can convince a person that his captivity is good for him, he's not going to try and escape.
That's right.
So that's where the game has been played. And they're very good at that. So now your question arises, is this going to just continue? Will they keep the masses content with their physical pleasures or not? I think not. I think my view of history, and especially most recent history in the last 100 years, when for the first time in history we saw the creation of a new political model called collectivism. And that's the very thing we're talking about, where we're controlling people through mind and ideas primarily. And that's relatively new, although you can trace it back to much earlier stages. And if you want to use religion as a comparable model, a lot of people have been controlled and still are through religious beliefs. But to change that over to the political world was something relatively new for the last century. Anyway, my view of all of that is that underneath the development that we're looking at today, we see the growth of government and the diminishing of personal liberties. It's continuing. It's not a static model. Government must always grow. It's like a cancer. It must grow. It doesn't get to a state where it says, okay, this is it. This is the perfect balance. It's never done that. Never. And so I don't see any reason to think that it's going to change today. So the growth of government will continue until it is exactly 100%. And at that point, it won't make any difference if you've got a cold beer in the refrigerator, because it'll probably be a beer which is laced with chemicals to control your mind, and it won't make any difference if you're watching color television, because everything on the tube will be propaganda. And at some point along the line, I think that even the most dull individual in society is going to wake up and say, I want out. And that's when the system will have to be destroyed. Yeah,
definitely. And it seems like if we compare it with, empires of the past, there is even a scientific model, I guess, that they can use now, or even technology, or as you say, where chemicals can be, in place to actually, keep people more off focus, so to speak, and not to realize what system they're a part of. Do you think that this is something that is developed as a kind of that the people that are behind the world government are aware of these things and have looked upon the